Doing the Easter eggs for season 6, episode 12 of Marvel's Agents of Shields. But we're spoiler not caught up, so I won't be doing any predictions for this episode because it was a two-parter, and I'll be doing the predictions there. So yeah, and I'll be focusing on the May stuff and the Temple stuff first because the title of the episode was called "The Sign," which was referring to May. So I'll get to the lighthouse in a bit, but right off the bat, I don't. It's not a really Easter egg or reference. It's just more of the fact I'm trying to figure out exactly how, who, is this the Flint from our from last season, or is like a version of our Flint, or is it just a fear Flint? But I'm more. They even bring it up later on in this two-parter that uh, with Daisy, Mac, and Yo-Yo, where they have like basically argument about whether or not Flint is real, and I'm more inclined to side with Mac and Yo-Yo because the way that he was interacting with Mac and Yo-Yo and asking questions or whatever, it felt more like a real person than it was more of a fear dimension person where they were more goal driven and like mean, I guess. So yeah, I'm more inclined to believe it's on Mac and Yo-Yo, believing that this is the real Flint. But the one thing that confused me or makes me question whether or not how much Flint is actually this Flint is because the whole purpose Flint was here was because Izel needed Mac and Yo-Yo to recreate the monolith, and the monolith and Mac and Yo-Yo fear Flint's powers because he could create the monolith for Izel, so that's why Flint is here. And once Flint, once Mac and Yo-Yo realize that and starts fearing the idea that Flint is there, he starts using his powers. So I'm wondering if the reason he used his powers isn't because it was his own free will, but it was actually because of Mac and Yo-Yo fearing his powers, and that's why he used his powers at that instance. So that's what I'm assuming they could go with if they explore that next season. If he comes back next season, it would be kind of interesting to see how much of a control over his powers he actually has over the fear part of him that Mac and Yo-Yo have of his powers. So it would be kind of interesting. But going through the whole entire Easter eggs or references now, we at the beginning of the basically the beginning of the episode, the team is getting ready to go on the mission to stop Izel, and May and Sarge are talking, and they have another reference to Robbie Reyes saying, our friend Robbie Reyes had something inside him, and he can control it, unlike Sarge can control Petra's Tutic that's inside him right now. So, yeah. But once they get to where they're going, they go check out Zephyr 1, and they find out no one is there, and you have this interaction with Piper and Sarge where basically Piper saying, I want you to get avenge Davis's death by saying, hey Sarge, do me a solid, make sure to end her, something along those lines. So basically just kill her for revenge on Davis's death. So yeah. And like I said before, the way that Flint was reacting to different things, it just felt more like a real person than it was a fear dimension or fear manifestation person. Because one of the things that Flint asks Mac and Yo-Yo is Izel the Destroyer of Worlds? Which I would assume if he was actually a fear dimension, he would know that because Mac and Yo-Yo know that Izel is not the Destroyer of Worlds. But it's really funny that it's nice that, or a nice callback to last season when that was a big deal of who the Destroyer of Worlds was. So yeah, I really appreciate that. But it just seems like that's more of a real person question than a person that was made out of someone's mind. So yeah, but he also says I think I missed a lot or something along those lines because he didn't, because when the last time he met Yo-Yo or saw Yo-Yo and Mac, Yo-Yo had two arms, but now she has two robotic arms. So yeah. Uh, and there was a little bit of commentary, social commentary in this episode when Sarge and May and Daisy were getting attacked by the zombie strikes. He actually uses uses the strike bullets that they have, and he says, "I've never been to a planet that was so into guns," which I've mentioned similar things before last season and whatnot with the guns. So it's still going along the lines of social commentary for this episode, and I appreciate when they do stuff like that. So yeah, and uh, you have Daisy mention something after all these zombies came about. She says, I'm pretty sure I've killed most of the birds at the tower," referring to Collision Course Part 2, where she destroyed all the strikes. I assumed she had destroyed all the strikes, but apparently not. So yeah, I guess I was wrong. Uh, and you have stuff that's going on in the lighthouse. I'll talk about it in a bit, but you have Deke end up going to the tower to save Mac, Yo-Yo, and Flint, and he only brought three wristbands, I think, for two of them for Yo-Yo and Mac, and one for him. But once he realized Flint was there, he decided to take off his protective thing that could prevent Izel from jumping into bodies to body, and gave it to his own thing to Flint to save him. But he has this line saying, I have a problem with wearable tech," which most likely is referring to the tech that he's wearing of the jump drive that he's wearing right now, because he does end up saying wearable tech. But it's also could be a reference to his metric from last season, which they referenced in episode 4, I believe it is, Code Yellow, with the whole metric stuff about him not wanting to wear anything around his wrist. So it most likely could be a reference to that as well. So yeah. And I don't know if this is an actually direct reference to anything, because I don't really play any of the games. But Deke comes up with this idea about a new video game that they could create, where you can kill zombies, and he starts listing off some items that could go in the game or whatever. And he says dog zombies and a chainsaw. I'm not sure if that's a reference to any game. The only games I know that are zombie based is The Last of Us. But I don't know if that's any of those things are in the game. So if you know if there's a direct reference to this, or a direct game that could be that he's been referencing, just comment down below, because I'm not 100% sure what it is. So yeah, but going on the whole zombie stuff, they have a couple more references where Max says it's like a Romero movie out there, talking about George Romero, who has the Night of the Living Dead movies and whatnot. But then you have Piper saying zombies, why not? And it's most likely a reference to the actress's time on Walking Dead. I'm not 100% sure if she's still on the show, but I know she was a character on the show at some point. I don't know if she's on it now, because she has she's been on other shows as well. So yeah, but you have another interaction with Mac and Flint, and he references back to Mac's confused face in 2091, last season of, I believe it was episode 8, I want to say, where he was shocked to find out there was no tacos there. But you have Flint ask Mac, do you guys still have tacos? So it's nice that they have a little callback there. And I believe this is the last zombie reference or whatever, but Daisy references the zombies again, and saying that they are the fast ones, the fast kind. They're not easy to shake, referring to I believe it also was a George Romero connection or whatever of the Night of the Living Dead, where they were the very first fast moving zombies. So I guess it just comes full circle, references to George Romero again. So yeah. And you have Deke get stuck in a Quinjet, and he has nowhere else. He has no escape other than having to pilot himself get into safety and go back to reunite with the rest of the team. And he doesn't know how to pilot the plane or whatever, which they do reference uh, later on in the next episode, I believe. But he ends up referencing, saying, I'm sure Elon could do this," and like talking about he could figure out a way to hack into Zephyr or into the Quinjet so he could pilot himself out of there. And he's talking about Elon Musk and whatnot. So yeah. Uh, and there was this a little bit of an argument again with Daisy and Mac, and where Mac refers to Sarge as the devil, saying that when the devil shows up, he was going to wear his face. And I'm also more inclined to believe, agree with Mac in this situation as well, because all the Pachacutic mythology that Benson found a couple episodes ago was about Izel and a realm of darkness and whatnot. So it's tied to that type of mythology, just like how Ghost Rider is tied to a or a devil of sorts, but not actually, might not the actual devil. It's just one of the many different realms and different versions of the devil. So yeah, Mac's technically right in that situation. So the end of this episode, you have where the sign pops up, but you have May trying to convince Sarge to be the better person, be the Coulson that she knew or whatever. Even though we might not have got Coulson back, at least there would be some version of Coulson back in Sarge. But you have this reference to how you have a reference to the time in the pilot when Coulson tried to convince May to come back into the field, onto the bus, and help the team that we grew to know over the past 6 seasons, saying that he pulled her out of the cubicle, gave her a crew and all that kind of stuff, gave her a family and whatnot. So you see how much of growth she's had, because she was always a sheltered person back in the in season 1, but to here she's opened up so much more to Coulson and all the crew members, that they became a family. So it's really nice that they made that callback here. But yeah, and I wasn't expecting to do this, but this most likely is going to be a 2-parter, even though it's a 2-part episode. But the next video will be all about the lighthouse stuff. So comment down below if I missed any Easter eggs or references for the May Temple stuff. So see ya.